बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। ओ लेवल का टॉपिक है इनवर्स प्रोपोर्शन। इनवर्स प्रोपोर्शन यानी दो वर्ड्स हैं। प्रोपोर्शन मीन्स रिलेशन बिटवीन any two variable quantities, and inverse means such a relation in which one quantity increases and the other decreases। तो इसको अगर हम यहाँ देखें तो इस तरह से है कि ये डेफिनेशन मैंने पहले से लिखी हुई थी। तो इसको देखें कि इफ x and y are two variable quantities such that y increases as x decreases or y decreases as x increases, then x and y are said to be inversely proportional to each other। यहाँ एक बात आप नोट करें कि जो सेंटेंस है इसमें ये इम्प्रेशन इस तरह का बनता है कि वैल्यू ऑफ y डिपेंड्स ऑन वैल्यू ऑफ x, कि जब x डिक्रीज होता है तो y इंक्रीज होता है, इफ x increases then y decreases। So that means y depends on x। तो कॉन्सेप्चुअली तो इसका ये मतलब बनता है कि x इंडिपेंडेंट है और y डिपेंडेंट है, लेकिन मैथमेटिकली अगर हम इसको देखें तो इससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है कि कौन सी वैल्यू पहले लिखी और कौन सी बाद में। लेकिन क्योंकि हम इनको वैल्यूज को रिलेट ही इस तरह से करते हैं कि एक का जो y की जो वैल्यू है वो x पे डिपेंड कर रही है, इस वजह से इस बात को भी आपने रियलाइज करना है कि x इंडिपेंडेंट है और y डिपेंडेंट क्वांटिटी है। तो यहाँ पे अगर हम इसको मैथमेटिकली देखें तो इसका मतलब जो है मैथमेटिकली y is proportional to x, यानी x की वैल्यूज चेंज होने से y की वैल्यूज चेंज होंगी, और जो डिनोमिनेटर में x है ये इस बात को इंडिकेट करता है कि x की वैल्यू इंक्रीज होने की वजह से y की वैल्यू डिक्रीज होगी। तो ये इस तरह जैसे ये आपको पता है कि 1/2, और अगर हम ये जो नीचे डिनोमिनेटर की वैल्यू इफ दैट वैल्यू इज इंक्रीज्ड then overall value decreases। 1/2 means if this is any quantity, and 1/2 means this value, this is 1/2 of this whole, and if we make another division then this is 1/4 of the whole, this is 1/4। That means if denominator is made large then overall value decreases। तो इस तरह से आप इस बात को समझ सकते हैं कि this is 1/x, this is reciprocal of the value of x, so y decreases as the value of x increases, and whenever there is this type of expression of proportion then this sign changes to equation if we put x and this constant k on this side। अब इसमें कोई ऐसा रूल नहीं है कि जरूरी कि इसको इसी साइड पे होना चाहिए, लेकिन ये कि कॉमनली मतलब most of the times we always write it k on this side। तो यहाँ एक और इंटरेस्टिंग चीज जो हमें नजर आती है कि इफ वी शिफ्ट दिस x on this side, x multiplied by y, that is equal to k, so this is changed into a form where there is no fraction। So from here you can say that the product of two numbers is equal to some constant, then the values are related inversely. तो इसको अगर हम यूं देखें कि ये जो है इस तरीके से है कि अगर if product of two quantities or variable quantities, let me write variable quantities, or simply I can say that if the product of two variables like in this case the variables are xy. If the product is constant of two variable quantities, then the variables or variable quantities, then the variables are inversely proportional to each other. Okay, now we have used these two words here. What do we mean by these two words? Like this is if and then. Whenever we use the word if, that means we apply a condition. And the condition in this case is that the product of two variables is constant. This is condition. Because we have used the word if along with this sentence. So if product is constant, that means we have applied this condition that the product must be constant. What is the result? So this word, when we use the word then, that means result. This is the result. What is the result? That the quantities are inversely proportional to each other. Now if we look at these expressions, you can see that product, this is the product constant. So you can say that this is condition. We have applied this condition. Then the result is that the quantities are inversely proportional to each other. Now conversely, if we change these two sentences with each other such that the condition and result are interchanged, then we can say that if two quantities or two variables, are inversely proportional to each other, then the product is constant. The product of variables is constant. So now you can see that once again this is the condition. This is condition. What does the condition say? That if two variables are inversely proportional, then the product is constant. This is the result. So if we talk about this sentence, what is the difference in these two? Here, product of variables is a condition, and the result is that they are inversely proportional. In this sentence, if the variables are inversely proportional, then their product is constant. So, in this with this reference, this one, this is the condition. This is condition. Now this is condition. Then this is the result. Xy is equal to constant. If they are inversely proportional, then their product is constant. And with reference to this sentence, the first one, if product is constant, then the variables are inversely proportional. So further, in order to elaborate it, what do we mean by this? So we can say that let's say there is a constant value 24. Value is constant, and how these two variable quantities are related so that xy is constant. Then if the value of x is 1 upon 2, y is 48, and their product half into 48, that is 24. If it is increased, that's what we have discussed, that as the value of x increases, then the value of y decreases. Then this value decreases to 24 in a way that the product is same 24. If it is further increased to 2, this becomes 12. How do we come to know that this will be 12? Because the product must be constant, that is 24. So 12 twos are 24 again. If it is 3, then this must be 8, that is 3 fours are 3 8s are 24. If it is 4, this will be 6, and the product is again 24. So from here we can say that 1 into 24 is equal to 2 multiplied by 12 is equal to 3 multiplied by 8 and is equal to 4 into 6, and there can be many more values, such that in each case the result is 24. Here you can say that you can see that result is 24, 24, 24. Same result is there. If this value is x1 and this is y1, so the product is constant, and this is x2, y2, that is again constant, x3, y3 is still same 24, x4, y4 is 24, that is constant. So from here we can conclude that if x1 y1 is equal to x2 y2, if such quantities have different values, like here x1 is 1 and y1 is 24, whatever is the product, but if the values of x and y are changed now to 2 and 12, but still that is equal to 24, so this result is equal to this result. Whenever you find that the products, such products are equal, then the values are related inversely. Their proportion is inverse. So and it can be placed equal to a constant value. Like in this particular case, the constant value is 24. Now, if we look at it with different examples, like this is a formula in physics that V is equal to F lambda. Here, if V is constant, velocity is constant, such as a velocity of sound. Velocity of sound in air, its value is constant, then F and lambda are related to each other inversely. Frequency is inversely proportional to wavelength. What does it mean? That if a wave has larger wavelength, then it has smaller value of frequency. And if wavelength is shorter, then the value of frequency is larger. So, and the reason is that their product is constant. Velocity is constant. Similarly, I hope you know that pressure and volume. If P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2, that means pressure is inversely proportional to velocity volume, or you can say that V is inversely proportional to pressure. How is it? I think it's very simple to understand that if this is the volume, total volume of a gas, and pressure is exerted on it, if there is lesser pressure, there is more larger value of volume. But if the pressure is increased, let's say this is P1, this is V1. Now the volume decreases if pressure is increased. But if pressure is smaller or larger value and volume has larger and then smaller value, but they are related in a way that P1 V1, that is some constant value, then P2 V2 will have same value. This value does not change. So you can say that pressure and volume are inversely proportional to each other. So these are few examples of inverse proportion which are applied in different formula. Okay. Now, if we talk about its graph, so the graph of inverse proportion, y is equal to k over x, and x is here and y is here, then their graph is related in this way. This is the graph of two values reciprocal to each other. This is not the exact shape, but the shape is similar to this, something like this. It won't touch x-axis. Let me draw it once again, that this is, it increases this way, that at every point the product of x and y, that remains constant. If we consider the values which we have already discussed here, that when x is half, y is 48. So this is not accurate graph, but we can discuss it in that context. Let's say this is half, value of x is half, then y is, let's say this is 48. As the value of x is increased to 1, the value of y decreases to 24, and if it is 2, x is 2, then you can see that this will be 12, and at every point, if it is x is 3, y is 8. So you can see that 48 into half, or 24 into 1, 24 multiplied by 1 is 24, 12, 2s are 24, 8, 3s are 24, which we have already discussed. So this is the shape of inverse proportion. So you should have this image of the graph in your mind. Exact shape of the graph that can also be seen, but I hope that whenever you find a graph of this shape, you will come to know that there is inverse proportion among these two quantities. Okay, now if we compare direct and inverse proportion, comparison of these two quantities, direct proportion, and on the other side, inverse proportion. How is it? Let's make two columns for them. Then this value here in this case, let me move slightly to that side. Mathematical expression y is proportional to x, and here y is proportional to 1 upon x. That is the first difference between these two. Secondly, when we change it to equation, y is equal to kx, here y is equal to k over x. And if we separate this constant, then y over x is equal to a constant. In this case, xy is equal to constant. So in direct proportion, ratio of the quantities is constant. Ratio of two variable quantities x and y is constant. In this case, in inverse proportion, product of the quantities is constant. Okay. Further, as we have discussed earlier, that x1 over y1 is equal to x2 over y2. That is in the same context like this one. Okay. On this side, we can say that x1 y1 is equal to x2 y2. Now, if we change this one into a fraction, then how will you recognize that this is inverse proportion or direct proportion? What are the values x1, y1, x2, y2? These are like we have used these values as x1, y1 and x2, y2. This is x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3. This way you can, like here, we have used these values. So in that context, how will you recognize when we write it x1 over x2? Then on the other side, this x2 we have shifted here, and y2 over this will be y1. And if we separate values of x on this side for direct proportion, y2, you can see that this y1 is shifted here and x2 is shifted here. So this is simple. These are simple rules of algebra, that we can shift this value of x2 on this side and this y1 from this denominator on the opposite side of the equation, that will be upwards here. So how we will recognize that which one of these two, apparently they seem to be the same, then how will we recognize? Here you can say that you can see that this is x1. So on the other side that will be y1, x1, y1, and in denominator x2, then here it will be y2. But in this case, in case of inverse proportion, if it is x1, this is y2. This is x2, then this is y1. Once again, look, 1, 1. In denominator 2, 2. Same order of the values is followed. But here, if this is 1, 2. This is 2, this is 1. So this way you can understand the relation. Or if you consider this way, x1, x2, y1, y2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Here x1, x2, but on the other side y2 over y1 is there. So this is the way you can understand that this is inverse proportion. Okay, if we write them as proportion ratios, x1 is to x2 equal to y1 is to y2. But in this case, how will it be? x1, x2 ratio is equal to y2 is to y1. So apparently, once again, they seem to be the same, but this is 1, 2, this is 1, 2. But in this case, if it is 1, 2, here it is 2, 1. And rule of multiplication is same in both of these cases if they are written like this, proportion, that these two, the outermost values are multiplied, and then the two inner values are multiplied. Same rule is followed here, that outermost values and the inner values are multiplied, but in this case the multiplication, their product will be x1, y2, that will be equal to x2, y1, 1 with 2 and 2 with 1. In this case, you will see that x1, y1 equal to x2, y2, which we have already seen here, that x1, y1 equal to x2, y2. If with the same order of the values they are multiplied and they give the same answer, then there is, if this is the order, that is inverse proportion. If order is inverted in case of multiplication, that is direct proportion. So these are the things which we can follow, and there is the difference between direct and inverse proportion. I think I have tried to cover all the aspects of inverse proportion. There is one more thing, that y is proportional to if this is 1 upon x square, and y is equal to k upon x square. So now the proportion is between x square and y. If you want to relate, you must take x square over here. Then there will be a graph representing their inverse proportion. If you take x over here, then the values won't represent their inverse proportion. So that is what you have to keep in mind. So that's it. I hope it is clear. Now I will try to make another video about the questions of past papers related to direct and inverse proportion, both of these. So for the next time, Allah Hafiz.